dangerous, dirty energy. We stand together for the land and sea. We don't need dangerous, dirty energy. We've drawn a line globally. Hands across the sand, we defend the air we breathe. Hands across the sand, clean food, clean water. Hands across the sand to embrace clean energy. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. Hands across the sand for the message we bring. We don't need dangerous, dirty energy. We stand together for the land and sea. We don't need dangerous, dirty energy. We've drawn a line globally. Hands across the sand, we defend the air we breathe. Hands across the sand, clean food, clean water. Hands across the sand to embrace clean energy. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. Hands across the sand for the message we bring.
Hi, my name's Dave Roshkolb, and I founded Hands Across the Sand in 2010. In February of that year, 10,000 people joined hands on 80 beaches across Florida to stop offshore drilling in our Florida's waters. And then 2 months later, the Deepwater Horizon disaster happened, and it damaged the coastal economies of 5 states and irreparably damaged our beautiful Gulf of Mexico. And now, Hands Across the Sand is something that comes together every year to embrace clean energy and steer away from our dependence on dirty fuels. So this year, as everyone comes together again for Hands Across the Sand virtually, I welcome all of you to join hands in this beautiful, simple expression of humans coming together for clean energy and for our children and our grandchildren and the future of our Earth. Thank you all for doing this every year.
Hello everybody, my name is Dee Dee Shelton. I'm the Executive Director of Hands Across the Sand. I'm doing a selfie presentation this morning because we have had to postpone our 2020 Hands Across the Sand until May 15th, 2021, when we will all once again join hands on the beaches and rivers and parks and Capitol steps. So I just wanted to introduce you to our video Facebook virtual event. Ask you to share it after you watch all the amazing videos and pictures that we've gained throughout the years. We've been having events globally for the last 11 years. Last year we had 100 events around the United States and the globe, including Belize, Australia, Greece. So we want to keep the momentum going. We want to appreciate all of our dedicated organizers, those people that have participated in all our Hands Across the Sand, and of course our sponsors. So we ask that you sit back and enjoy our video and share it, tag your representatives, and visit our webpage at handsacrossthesand.org. Be sure to register an event for next year starting in January on our webpage. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the last 11 years of Hands Across the Sand. And thank you for all you do to save our planet. Thank you.
dead zones? No offshore drilling! What do we say to save our coastline? No offshore drilling! What do we say to oil spill? No offshore drilling! What do we say? No offshore drilling! What do we say? No offshore drilling!
As many of you know, in early January, the federal government announced a draft plan for the 5-year leasing of oil and gas off our U.S. coast. And for the first time, and for the first time in nearly 40 years, California was in that draft plan. And so we are here today as Californians, as Americans, to say we do not accept offshore oil drilling on our coast.
It's coastal communities like Laguna Beach and coastal communities all around the nation have nothing to gain and everything to lose from this. We have an incredibly thriving economy in our coastal communities. 150 million people come visit the beaches in California every year. They spend about $20 billion injecting an incredible amount of money into our coastal economy and support 376,000 jobs in the state of California. So we don't need it for jobs, we don't need it for the economy. It's only going to harm all of those things.
This has to end. This nightmare has to end. This of giving away every precious resource that we have, of not having a rational policy to promote energy development that is not based upon a carbon-based economy, but that really talks about renewables and alternative energy, wind and solar. And we can do it. California is demonstrating that it can be done.
And you know, I was thinking about this, that's not bad. Really, it's not. This is what we're supposed to be doing in life. We're supposed to be defending, standing up for, rejoicing in this astounding California coast that we have been gifted. So I would recommend keeping a light heart. We're exporting oil to other countries at this point. So do we want to put that at risk for another country if you want to be nationalistic about it? You know, no, you don't. Is it going to change the price at the pump? You know, no, it's not. Keep love in your heart and fight like hell. Thank you.
Hey, it's Delia from the Surfrider Foundation. We join Hands Across the Sand every year because offshore oil drilling is a dirty and dangerous practice that threatens the health of our ocean and coastal communities. Due to COVID-19, our coastal businesses simply cannot take any more threats. So that's why we are calling on the Trump administration to cancel all plans for expanded offshore oil drilling, and we hope you join us in sending that message.
Bluebirds fly. dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true.
beaches. We want to protect them, we want to keep them, and we want to preserve what we have for future generations. On this day, there's like 80 beaches in the state where we're having similar events in lots of different locations.
No, I'm actually from Texas, and we do a lot of offshore drilling over there. And now that I'm in Florida, I don't want Florida to do the same thing that Texas did. And if we all think about conservation, we can all save more energy than we could possibly get out of drilling out there off the Florida coast.
As a group, you have a bigger voice. And that voice is going to carry itself to the legislature and say, hey, we don't like what we're hearing. We don't want drilling off our coast. We don't want to take a chance of ruining what we've got.
Clean energy now. No more oil.
Now don't let the movement stop here. Keep up the dialogue.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
All right, we're here with Shane Close of the Surfrider Foundation's Miami chapter. Shane, tell us what is Surfrider?
Surfrider is a grassroots, non-profit organization, and we're committed to protecting our oceans, beaches, and waves.
And what are we doing out here today?
Today we're here with Hands Across the Sand, and we're here to protest offshore drilling in Florida's coast.
Shane, and why are we having this Hands Across the Sand protest?
Well, basically we're here to help protect our environment, local communities' economy, because we feel that the benefit to cost ratio of the big oil drilling off of our coast is basically not going to be in our favor. It's definitely going to be in big oil's favor.
Okay, you want to add, why are we protesting today?
Well, just imagine if there was an oil spill offshore, what our beaches would look like, and the tens or hundreds of billions of dollars we would lose in revenue.
There's hundreds of species of fish out there, and many of them die.
Paranoia strikes deep into your life, it will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the man come and take you away. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop now. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop. Children, what's that sound?
Where are you from?
Right here.
Miami Beach?
Yep.
Nice, nice. How did you hear about the event?
Internet, emails, neighbor.
Nice.
This is one of those important causes I had to come out and support.
Yeah, I figure I really believe that the idea that, you know, wind power, solar power is a lot cleaner and renewable energy source than just drilling for oil off the coast. That's a finite resource that keeps our addiction to oil intact, and that'll eventually run out in less than 30 years. All right, did you bring any friends?
They say that these are ugly to build offshore, but then we're talking about building an oil rig offshore.
Right.
So that doesn't really hold up.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. All right, well, thank you for coming.
My name's Jackie Savitz. I'm Oceana's leader in the United States. Please join me on the 16th of May to draw a line in the sand against offshore drilling. Coastal communities like ours do not want to become industrial oil hubs. We do not want to be the site of the next deepwater drilling disasters. That's why we need President Trump to formally cancel his plans to develop offshore drilling on the east and west coast of the United States. We need Congress to permanently protect our oceans against offshore drilling. This is a bipartisan request. It is supported by governors from both parties in the Atlantic and Pacific coast. It's supported by business leaders across the aisle. It's supported by many members of Congress, whether they're Democratic or Republican. And 360 coastal towns have already resolved to oppose the expansion of offshore drilling. This is something that we should be able to get done as a country, so please join me in drawing a line in the sand against offshore drilling, and let's protect our coasts. Thanks.
dangerous, dirty energy. We stand together for the land and sea. We don't need dangerous, dirty energy. We've drawn a line globally. Hands across the sand, we defend the air we breathe. Hands across the sand, clean food, clean water. Hands across the sand to embrace clean energy. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. Hands across the sand for the message we bring. We don't need dangerous, dirty energy. We stand together for the land and sea. We don't need dangerous, dirty energy. We've drawn a line globally. Hands across the sand, we defend the air we breathe. Hands across the sand, clean food, clean water. Hands across the sand to embrace clean energy. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. Hands across the sand for the message we bring.
Is that enough?
Alright, back in lines.
But you would think when you be naive.
Steer the path to clean energy. Industries that don't destroy our atmosphere, the air we breathe, our earth, the wonderful, beautiful oceans, this treasure I have behind me. This is so important, it's so critical. We've got to do it now. Let's join hands together now.
I mean, I'm out here, and you're probably out here for the same reason, just to kind of show solidarity. And I applaud Dave Roshkob for putting this together. And it's a peaceful protest, really. People joining hands against something that they think shouldn't be happening out in our waters and happening to our environment. And we participated back in February when the first event was held. And, you know, just ironically enough, you know, the oil spill happened shortly after that. And with the first peaceful protest, there was a lot of backlash and a lot of local news coverage of people that thought we were all ridiculous, and that spill can never happen, and here we are. So.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
All right, we're here with Shane Close of the Surfrider Foundation's Miami chapter. Shane, tell us what is Surfrider?
Surfrider is a grassroots, non-profit organization, and we're committed to protecting our oceans, beaches, and waves.
And what are we doing out here today?
Today we're here with hands across the sand, and we're here to protest offshore drilling in Florida's coast.
Shane, and why are we having this hands across the sand protest?
Well, basically we're here to help protect our environment, local communities' economy, because we feel that the benefit to cost ratio of the big oil drilling off of our coast is basically not going to be in our favor. It's definitely going to be in big oil's favor.
Okay, you want to add, why are we protesting today?
Well, just imagine if there was an oil spill offshore, what our beaches would look like, and the tens or hundreds of billions of dollars we would lose in revenue.
There's 100,000 pieces of fish out there. How do you die?
life it will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the man come and take you away. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop now. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop. Children, what's that sound?
Where are you from?
Right here.
Miami Beach?
Yep.
Nice, nice. How did you hear about the event?
The internet, emails, neighbor.
Nice.
This is one of those important causes I had to come out and support.
Yeah, I figure I really believe that the idea that, you know, wind power, solar power is a lot cleaner and renewable energy source than just drilling for oil off the coast. That's a finite resource that keeps our addiction to oil intact, and that'll eventually run out in less than 30 years. All right, did you bring any friends?
They say that these are ugly to build offshore, but then we're talking about building an oil rig offshore.
Right.
So that doesn't really hold up.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. All right, well, thank you for coming.
Time to make a stand. Time to tell the whole wide world, make them understand. Gotta get the mission heard. We have no time to waste. Gotta get out the word. So we'll all band together, walk out on the sand. We'll join our hands together. This is what we demand. No more offshore drilling. Leave our precious oceans alone. We'll fight for our communities, save our beaches from attack. Stand up strong in unity and make big oil grow back. Come from across the country, demonstrate across this land. We'll come to get together, join hands across the sand. Say no to offshore drilling. We have paid a price that's way too high. Prophecies fulfilling. We can stop them now if we really try. So we'll all band together, walk out on the sand. We'll join our hands together. This is what we demand. No more offshore drilling. Leave our precious oceans alone. We'll fight for our communities, save our beaches from attack. Stand up strong in unity and make big oil draw back. We'll come from across the country, demonstrate across our land. Come and get together and join hands across the sand. We're a guest on our planet. We don't live here alone. Owe it to the others, make it a good home. We'll fight for our communities, save our beaches from attack. Stand up strong in unity and make big oil draw back. We'll come from across our land. Come and get together and join hands across the sand. We'll fight for our community, save our beaches from attack. Stand up strong in unity and make big oil draw back. We'll come from across the country, demonstrate across our land. We'll come and get together and join hands across the sand. We'll fight for our community, save our beaches from attack.
So we're here to demonstrate our opposition to offshore and nearshore drilling and exploration for oil and gas. On March 13th of this year, EPA lifted the 16-month ban on BP because the agreement, and I'll just read this part to you. Federal government states that the 5-year agreement contains strong provisions to continue safety and ethics improvements in order to comply. Okay, so this was done on March 13th. On March 18th, BP bidded on 31 leases and they won 24. So March 24th, this is all of this year, BP had an oil spill in Lake Michigan. On April 28th, they had another oil spill in Alaska, which encompasses 27 acres.
couldn't be more pleased. We had events all across the world that started in New Zealand early this morning. Started seeing some of the photographs, sweeping across to Europe, then the East Coast, now the seaside, and then on all the way to Hawaii, finishing on Honolulu Beach. We've got thousands of people joining hands to embrace clean energy, to compel our leaders to embrace clean energy and steer away from the dirty fuel money that is influencing our energy policy.
Video from the sand, live from Cincinnati, Ohio.
You're so solo! Thinking everybody can try to go! Zone in on the cocoa!
And what's more beautiful than people joining hands from all walks of life and from all socioeconomic strata and looking beyond politics on this particular issue. That doesn't happen very often anymore, and certainly people feel strongly and passionate about this issue, and that's why we have so much participation. No to nearshore and offshore drilling in Florida's waters. Embrace clean energy.
Hey, this is Jazzy with ModernHippieMag.com, your online source for hip, healthy, conscious green living. Today we're out at gorgeous Siesta Key Beach, but we're not here to enjoy the sand today. Today we're here in a form of solidarity and meeting with people in our community, organizations, and joining hands across the sand and helping BP to understand that we're not going to stand for it, that our beaches are pristine, and you know, we have something to say. And so with this joining hands in this form of solidarity, we want to speak with people and find out how this event, how they're hoping it's going to have an effect, but also we're going to hear from our county commissioners and see what's going on in our county and if there's anything that we can do to help. So stay tuned because we got a lot going on today.
This is a community gathering, it's a community outreach, it's a show of solidarity by joining hands in solidarity against the effects of the offshore oil drilling and to encourage clean energy alternatives now. Actually, you don't want to encourage, we want to demand clean energy alternatives now.
We just want to make it known that a lot of people are very interested in this horrible problem.
Our beaches are pristine, they're not only a place for us to enjoy, but it's the foundation of our economy, and we just can't allow them to destroy it.
This is an issue about the environment, we all understand this. But beyond that, it's an issue about community. This is who we are. This shore, these marshlands, estuaries, that's what brought us here. That's what ties us together. It ties us together aesthetically, it ties us together economically, it ties us together spiritually. This is why we're here. When this is threatened, our community is threatened.
I'm here just because I love Siesta Key and I love the beaches in Florida, and I want them to be beautiful, safe, healthy places to come with my family for a long, long time.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm mad as hell. I live in a community that has spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in generations cleaning up our natural environment, bringing scallops back to our bay, restoring the seagrass beds, more fish to catch, and providing for our community for a better quality of life. And one single act of a bunch of morons stands to undo all that we have done over the last few years. And I'm mad as hell.
There's so many people outraged, but how did it come about that you were able to organize something like this?
Okay, the first event happened in February, and it was against offshore drilling, and Renee Weeks organized that one. And it was a cold day in February, and a couple hundred people came out on the beach and joined hands against offshore drilling, period. Well, now we have the effects of offshore drilling.
I mean, the truth is right now even we're seeing effects. There are some people who are canceling reservations even though our beach is gorgeous. You can see there's no oil on it whatsoever. But the impact to the area, if oil were to come here, would be enormous. And frankly, our population cares very broadly about the state and the health of the Gulf of Mexico. This has been so irresponsible on behalf of the oil companies and on behalf of the United States in failing to regulate the industries. It is just appalling.
I know that some of our beach hotels are experiencing like a 40% cancellation rate because people from Europe and people from other parts of our nation don't understand that the Gulf Coast is so expansive. And they see the oil on Pensacola Beach and they think that St. Pete and Sarasota and the rest of our West Coast is closed for business. And it's affecting people that work in our hotels, people that work in our restaurants, people that work in our fisheries. It just, overall, the potential effect of this on our state is devastating.
Personally, I feel this is an insult. It is an assault to my senses. It is already causing Sarasota County very serious economic hardship. But more so, I'm fearful that the toxins that are being released into the Gulf of Mexico at literally uncalculable numbers are going to have lingering effects. This is the area where our fin fish, our recreational fish, are breeding right now. So we may not see the actual consequences of a lot of this oil spill activity until 5-10 years down the road, when these species that normally would be breeding now have a generation lost.
The second wave of disaster, if you will, is going to be the human health impact. We've estimated that there are something in the neighborhood of 64 million people who are at risk of health effects already. And given that there's going to be exposure, our hope is that people can have medical intervention which is preventive first, so that we can lessen the impact of the exposure.
And so this event, so many people from our local area and faraway beaches have come together to show solidarity. What do you hope to accomplish?
That the world would take notice, that our government at the state and federal level would understand how deeply people care about the ecology of the area, about the environment, the Gulf of Mexico, and the health of our beach.
What do you think is going to happen seeing all these people? Do you think that's really going to have an effect?
I like to hope so. I like to think most of these people are registered voters who care about the beaches and understand that their local economies are tied to their beach economies and vote with that in mind.
We saw the power in the 1960s and the 1980s that peaceful gatherings of common citizens had on their government. We live in a republic democracy where the people do have a voice, and I can't think of a better way to sound off than to come here and hold hands or join hands and just let the government officials know how serious we are about this matter and how disappointed we are in their activity.
So are you hoping that being out here today and taking part in this event, that it's going to make a difference?
Oh yeah, it'll make a difference. It'll hopefully get on CNN, and there'll be a few shots of that, and it'll raise the consciousness. You know, it's in the sick kind of way. The oil spill is actually good for the Siesta Beach here. You know, it will stop the drilling. I mean, it will slow it down. You know, because even the conservative politicians, except for Marco Rubio, are against drilling right off here. You know, and destroying this source of tourist income.
Please know that every one of your local governments, when our state legislature was even discussing oil drilling 3 miles off the coast, said no way.
Hands Across the Sand is a movement made up of people of all walks of life. This is crossing political affiliations. This movement is not about politics. It's about the protection of our coastal economies, our oceans, our marine wildlife, and the fishing industry in Florida, and our way of life here in Sarasota.
This is the quality of our life, and this is something that's very important to all of us. So thank you so much, and please, please continue to support renewable energy. We need to have in the Florida Constitution an absolute and permanent ban for drilling off these shores. Can you help me make that happen?
We just have to keep this going so it doesn't stop here.
And I think everybody here should appreciate that this is not just a phenomenon of a few months. We're going to be dealing with this for decades.
We have got to do what we can as citizens to make sure this never happens again.
I think that drastic measures need to be taken in the federal government to make sure that this sort of activity is stopped. And I also think that this needs to be a wake-up call for us all and should show us all the true price of fossil fuels and the price that they pay to our environment, our culture, and our society.
It's one thing for red tide to come in, it's another thing for natural things to happen. But when man-made disasters, you mess with Mother Nature.
So what would you say to BP right now?
I would say to BP, get your oil out of my Gulf.
Save our seabirds, save our sea life, save our marine life, and develop clean energy don't kill our Gulf.
It's distressing, but we're going to keep our beaches clean, aren't we?
Oh, we are going to keep our beaches clean, definitely. Right here in Sarasota, we will.
So we have to come together as a community, work as a community, and fight for the same thing, protecting our legacy, protecting our way of life, and also fulfilling our moral obligation to make sure that this is here for the next generation and the generation after that and the generation after that.
But the fact is, the Gulf of Mexico is all of ours. The ecology and the economy of the state and the area is important to all of us.
Our great-grandchildren are going to ask in protest at some point, what did you do when the earth was unraveling? Surely you did something for the mammals, the reptiles, and the birds that were all dying. Did you fill the streets with protest? And as we continue to be exposed to the toxins, surely you called for that to stop. And what did you do once you knew? So here we are today, joining hands in community solidarity against the effects and the mitigation of the offshore oil drilling, and we want to develop clean energy now.
We're here at Long Beach, Hands Across the Sand.
We had an awesome showing of solidarity from a lot of people today.
Governor Cuomo.
You have the power!
Protect our shores. Just support renewable energy.
And veto. Veto. Veto.
Veto.
Veto.
Veto.
Veto. Veto. Veto.
Veto.
Veto Port Ambrose.
Veto Port Ambrose.
Veto Port Ambrose.
Veto Port Ambrose. Veto Port Ambrose! Now!
And a minute, because I'm going to tell all of you guys what y'all need to do is call your congressmen and U.S. senators and make them aware that you want them to work hand in hand with Congressman Sanford to get this bill done, what needs to be done, get it passed, and let's get some legislature out here to protect our tourism and our beaches. You know,
for a fact that our visitors want to search for shark's teeth and not tar balls.
We're out here today at Folly Beach at the 7th Annual Hands Across the Sand Day of Action. This is one of 87 events happening around the world and one of more than 50 up and down the East Coast, where we're demonstrating that we're saying no to offshore drilling and seismic blasting and yes to clean energy.
This issue is very important to me and other South Carolinians, particularly the issue of seismic airgun blasting, which is being proposed off our coast right now and is one of the loudest man-made sounds in the ocean, very disruptive to fish and marine mammals.
Coastal drilling is more than a local environmental issue, it's a global issue. The oil companies of the world already have enough proven assets on their books that if we burn all of this oil, it's going to push the atmospheric carbon dioxide content to some serious tipping points. We should not drill for this oil because we cannot burn this oil, and that's why we're here today.
here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, we like to say that the big fish are eating up the little fish, but if we have seismic guns blasting, we won't have any fish left in our fisheries because they're going to depart from this area. And that's part of our cultural heritage, our cultural sustainability, and the sustainability of our ecology on this coast.
Just a little while longer, fight on.
South Carolina communities including Folly Beach, Charleston, Mount Pleasant, Sullivan's Island, the Isle of Palms, and the more than 50 communities on the southeast coast, and saying that we do not want seismic testing or offshore drilling. We want to protect and preserve what we have and pass it in good health to our children and our children's children. We call on our leaders to invest in renewable and sustainable energy technologies for the future. We resolve ourselves to conserve energy and live more lightly on the earth. And we name that this work as a part of who we are as people who live by the sea and savor it. Specifically, we thank those who represent us, like Mayor Goodwin, who is here today.
Off the coast of New South Wales is potential offshore fossil fuel development from Port Stephens all the way down to northern Sydney. So currently Asset Energy has undertaken 2D seismic testing last year off the coast of Newcastle, and now they're planning on the more damaging 3D seismic testing at the earliest opportunity.
No one can tell me categorically that seismic testing doesn't affect the environment. We've spoken to Asset Energy about this. They can't provide us any information whatsoever whether or not anything on the bottom has been injured by the seismic testing. In fact, when asked, Asset Energy did not even know what was on the bottom in the affected area. There was no depth soundings or any information whatsoever of what was on the bottom.
All my research on it has come to dead ends. I've not found any conclusive evidence to say that it's safe. We can presume that it's not because of the decibel levels they're running their testing equipment at, and fish have incredible sensory organs all over their body. Their ears, their lateral lines are used to measure all sorts of stuff we don't even know. So on that alone, you'd have to imagine that there is risk.
Seismic testing, like everything else, is not a good idea. Firstly, it's an environment that we are not a party to, and we need to be mindful of that this is an area or a habitat for a diverse range of animals. Port Stephens is actually the largest marine park in New South Wales. We have a big diversity of fish because it's a marine park that attracts a lot of fish stock to the area. With that attraction of the fish comes the dolphins. So within the bay we have a large pod of approximately 100 bottlenose dolphins that live here full time. We also have the visiting of the whales, the humpback whale predominantly, and we need to have a full understanding of what the impacts are going to be on the species that live in those environments, and we need to protect it.
The 2004 seismic testing, we held a game fishing competition, for example, out of Lake Macquarie, which coincided with the testing. That competition that was done was mainly targeting pelagic species. There were no pelagic species caught. There was no sharks caught either. And then after the game fishing event, offshore fishing declined. Nobody was catching fish offshore on those deeper reefs. It affected the commercial industry terribly. And the thing about it is with the commercial guys, that's their livelihood, and everyone's forgetting that.
I do know fish stocks are reducing off the coast here regularly, just talking to friends in the industry, and to put more strain on that environment at the moment would be not a benefit in any way at all.
Recreational fishing and commercial fishing is a necessary part of life. So the public needs to get behind this now and say,
save our coast, no offshore gas. 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 Save our coast, no offshore gas.
Hey y'all, Larry Baldwin, your Crystal Coast waterkeeper here. I oppose seismic testing and offshore drilling because the coast of our state, the entire Atlantic coast, cannot afford to see the kind of things that have happened in the Gulf of Mexico with the Deepwater Horizon, or any of these other spills that we hear about around the world. So I would ask you to stand up and oppose seismic testing and offshore drilling as well too. Seismic testing will have an immediate impact on our fisheries, as the blasting will kill off fish up and down the coast. And the drilling, should we have a spill, and it's more likely that we will, it's not going to be good for our environment, and it's going to ruin our waters. So just say no to seismic testing and offshore drilling. Thanks. Have a great day.
Back in line.
But you would think when you be naive, you would think that.
Let go of my hand. I have something important to share. Today I joined forces with Oceana to continue supporting the Hands Across the Sand movement. As you may know, this movement goes beyond coastal and marine environmental protection. I currently work at the Ashe Conservation Trust, where we work under two main programs: the Community Outreach and Livelihoods and Protected Areas Management. It is important to conserve our wild places to ensure the interconnectivity between nature and the communities that depend on the natural resources. We must conserve From the landscape to the seascape, the mountains, the barrier reef, they are important for our daily livelihoods. Protect Belize. To love and protect Belize. My Belize, your Belize.
Hands across the sand, North Myrtle Beach. We are here. There are close to 80 to 100 people here in this long line. People who are here to protect our coast. Hands across the sand in North Myrtle Beach. It's happening now. Hey, it's Joan from Soda. We're up here in North Myrtle Beach at the Horseshoe, Main Street and Ocean Drive, getting ready for Hands Across the Sand. Come on down at 11:30. At noon, we'll head out to the beach to hold hands to protect our coast. Come and see us.
Hey, this is Chris Carnevale with the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy in Charleston, South Carolina, and we at SACE join hands at Hands Across the Sand every year because we know there's a better way to power our economy than drilling for oil offshore. We could electrify our vehicles and power them with renewable and clean energy like solar and wind, which are now the least expensive sources of new energy that you can get. And rather than building offshore drilling platforms, we could build offshore wind farms and have a clean coastal economy.
Hands Across the Sand, which is a national event. People are coming to the beach at noon, forming a line along the shoreline, and then joining hands to demonstrate their support for alternative energy. Also at the same time, their opposition for any new offshore drilling, seismic testing, and associated oil and gas industry.
It's an annual event here, holding hands across the sand. This is international, so across the globe people are gathering at beachfronts and holding hands in opposition to offshore oil and dirty energy, just showing their support for clean beaches and clean oceans. We saw a whole bunch of people gathering on the beach, and since it was such a great, beautiful day, you know, it really is poignant, you know, seeing the use of the beach as, you know, all these tourists are here and showing them, hey, like, this wouldn't be here. You guys wouldn't be able to hang out here if this is open to oil and there's a massive spill.
We begin tonight with a statement being made at beaches across the nation. People joined hands today saying no to offshore drilling and yes to cleaner beaches. Events took place at 35 beaches in California, including 4 right here on the Central Coast. Action News reporter Tom Miller was at Cowles Beach in Santa Cruz today. He joins us live from our Salinas newsroom. Hi, Tom.
Oh, hi, Brittany. The event was called Hands Across the Sand, and all around the world, at noon local time, people came together and joined hands while facing out toward the ocean. It was a symbol of unity aimed at protecting our beaches and coastlines.
In a message targeted at big oil companies and beachgoers alike, dozens of people sent on protecting the ocean joined hands on Cowles Beach and said it's time to stop polluting our oceans.
Now, I'm a surfer, and I can tell you the last thing surfers want to be surfing in is oil slicks. No how, no way.
The coastline here is protected by the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, so typically oil is not an issue, but trash in the water is.
As far as I'm concerned, it's all about the garbage. It's the garbage that's right at the shoreline, and it's the garbage on the streets that lead to the shoreline.
The Monterey Bay has a rich ecosystem where humans come face to face with marine life, but pollution threatens these animals. So Allie Eppie has picked up trash off the beach nearly every day for 11 years. She says sometimes kids look at her funny.
Because they can't imagine. I say I'm picking up garbage, and they look at me. What's that about? And then I explain, if it goes into the water and the marine life ingests it, it makes them sick to their stomachs. And then the kids want to join in.
Save Our Shores says a huge part of the problem is that people aren't aware of the pollution in the ocean. They posted these signs alerting them of the dangers of going in contaminated water, but it seems like they just ignore them. The event at Cowles Beach was just one of 35 statewide. Beaches in Santa Cruz have a reputation of being cleaner than most, but with so many visitors, some trash gets left behind.
I hope they get to understand that we're all stewards of the planet, and we happen to live in paradise here, and so we need to keep it paradise.
That starts by people picking up after themselves, but sometimes it takes a friendly reminder or a helping hand before the message really sinks in.
And similar events took place locally at beaches at Big Sur, Carmel, and also in Santa Cruz at Pleasure Point. Brittany?
Tom, thanks so much. Now, this was an international event, and 42 countries and all 50 United States held demonstrations today.
So we're here with Jen Savage.
Ocean Conservancy, Humboldt Surfrider.
And why are you here?
to join in this National Day of Advocacy for Clean Energy instead of offshore oil drilling.
I'm Lisa DiPietro. I'm with the North Coast Environmental Center.
And we're at Moonstone Beach.
That's right.
Moonstone Beach. And why are we here today?
We're here for Hands Across the Sand, which is a nationwide effort to say no to offshore oil drilling and yes to clean energy.
Reduce our dependence on oil.
Right, and everybody talks about it. Well, a lot of people talk about it, and most people want to do that, but it's really difficult in our society because it's so structured around oil consumption, right? Like, we could decide to drive less, and a lot of people try to drive less, but until we have some structural change in the way things are done, our individual actions won't matter as much, and so it really needs to be this top-down policy change, and so this is part of why we're doing this today.
I'm here because I care about our coast and our ocean, and I want to make sure that the drilling moratorium stays in place here in California, and I want to see drilling stop off the coasts of this great country.
And what's the plan today?
Well, at noon, everybody will get in a line and hold hands and form a line across the sand. Hands Across the Sand is the event, and people are doing it all over the country today. I guess many people already have in other time zones.
Demonstration, about 200 people trying to express our concern about all the oceans of the world, the ones off of Ventura, the ones off of Louisiana, the ones off Maryland, everywhere. We have to be very careful about damaging this permit.
This is a global event sponsored by Surfrider and many other organizations to draw a line in the sand and to say no further, no more oil exploration. There are better ways, and we think we can see those better ways sooner than we can drilling for oil on our coastline. It's just too risky. If you go to our website, www.surfrider.org/Ventura, you'll know about our chapter. If you go to nottheanswer.org, you'll understand what's going on in the Gulf and ways to fix it. If you go to handsacrossthesand.org, you'll understand what that's all about.
Of course, what we're really talking about here, the largest picture, is the corporate control of America. The corporate control of our lives. We don't seem to be, Obama does things, he gets a little bit done, and then immediately as it gets implemented, it gets gutted. So we're stuck. We're stuck until we really see that corporations can be our pals, but they better behave themselves, or we're going to have some trouble here. That's really what's going on.
Welcome back to the Most News in the Morning. A federal judge has again denied the government's request to halt deep water oil drilling, and that's not sitting well with many people who are now seeing their beaches threatened.
This weekend, people from across the globe will join hands and take a stand against offshore oil drilling. The Hands Across the Sand event was founded by Dave Rushkolb. He joins us live now from Pensacola this morning. Dave, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Tell us how you came up with this idea.
Well, I created Hands Across the Sand in response to the Florida House of Representatives trying to lift the ban on nearshore drilling in Florida. That's just 3 to 10 miles off our coastline. And on February 13th, we organized over 80 beaches, and we had 10,000 Florida citizens joining hands, creating human lines in the sand all across the Florida beaches, from Jacksonville to Miami and from Key West up to Pensacola.
So you planned another event similar to that one, and then the Deepwater Horizon exploded. And, you know, what happened after that? You had a lot of interest in this event, right?
Well, I just felt that it was important. This was an opportunity of national importance and really global importance to bring this event to such a very simple expression for Americans and for people of the world to stand and draw a line in the sand against expanding offshore oil drilling and championing clean energy and renewables. So yes, it caught on very quick. About 4.5 weeks ago, the website went live, and if you like, I can tell you how many locations we have across the world.
Go for it.
Okay, let me just check here.
Don't tell us all of them. I don't know if we have enough time, but
well, we have 841 total events across the world. We have 725 events in the U.S. in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. We just signed up France as well.
And there'll be a display in front of the White House as well, correct? I mean, that's obviously a message that you'd like to send to the president.
Absolutely, under the arch in St. Louis as well, and really the call to action is for Americans. They can go to the website handsacrossthesand.org. There's a button there, and they can send a message directly to the president and to Congress, telling them that now, not later, is the time to change to clean energy and renewables. And expanding offshore oil drilling, especially after what's happened in the Gulf, is just pure folly.
And Dave, what do you say to those folks in Louisiana, though? I mean, Governor Jindal has been out in front talking about this, that, you know, these are jobs that we're talking about here. And yes, the environment is important, and yes, those beautiful beaches on the Panhandle are important, but folks got to eat. You know, people got to put clothes on their kids and put a roof over their head and pay the mortgage. What do you say to those folks?
Absolutely. It's always unfortunate whenever anybody loses their jobs, but these folks lost their jobs due to an accident that never should have happened, and an industry that really didn't have a solution to that accident. So it's very unfortunate, there's no question, but it's my hope that we steer towards cleaner energy industries, and certainly there'll be a lot more jobs available there. And let's just talk about the number of jobs across the Gulf Coast states that are going to be lost, and the homes that are going to be foreclosed on. And you peel away the economic and emotional layer of that onion, it just goes on and on and on. I mean, how long are we going to allow an industry to endanger the coastal economies of our nation and in our environment, as well as the wildlife in our waterways?
Yeah, it's going to take a while, though, for people to not depend on oil quite so much. Dave, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be watching your event this weekend.
Good luck.
And good luck. Thank you.
Join hands with us on the beach. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. 44 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back.
More than 200 Palm Beach County residents hit the beach in Lake Worth to join Hands Across the Sand. The event this morning was organized to raise public awareness about what this group says are the dangers of offshore oil drilling. It's a real concern for South Florida's beachfront economies as state lawmakers prepare to once again review possible legislation on beachfront oil drilling.
It's different than offshore. They're going to sell it as offshore, but it's beachfront oil drilling, which means the view behind me, you will be able to see rigs pumping oil from the seabed. It's horrendous for the economy. Could be very, very bad environmentally.
Event sponsors say rather than investing in the past, more funds should go towards R&D for new alternative energy sources.
We are at Hands Across the Sand, and it is an international day of action to come together to say no. No to deep sea drilling in our great Australian bight, and yes to clean renewable energies.
Well, this is an international day of awareness in terms of offshore oil pushing into riskier and riskier locations and putting the coastlines of the world at risk. In Australia, there are events happening all over, in South Australia, in New South Wales, in Tasmania, etc. They're all over Australia, and the key issue for Australia at the moment is BP pushing into the pristine waters of the Great Australian Bight. One of the most significant whale nurseries in the world. You know, it is utterly inappropriate to be coming off the back of the Gulf of Mexico disaster straight into one of the most significant whale nurseries in the world off the southern Australian coast, and we're raising awareness about that issue. We've been asking for a long time now to see any oil spill modelling, to see any emergency planning, in other words how they're going to deal with a scenario like the Gulf of Mexico, and as yet that has not been forthcoming. So, you know, the actual risk of what's being potentially imposed on the people of southern Australia is not being made clear. So we're calling for all of that information to be put forward as part of consultation that this company has to do in order to get these approvals with the community. We're calling for this information to be released immediately.
So who were the victims of the Deepwater Horizon disaster? One oil rig. I'm sure that BP never expected to lose an oil rig, and I'm sure they never imagined that oil would continue to spew out into the ocean for nearly 3 months, which is obviously nothing like the spill modelling that they're talking about. 11 fathers, sons, men who expected to come home after work never did. Quotes from the National Geographic: more than 8,000 birds, sea turtles and marine mammals were found injured or dead in the 6 months after the spill. More than 900 bottlenose dolphins dead. That represented 17% of the population, and many more are still dying from toxic effects today. Dolphins on the Louisiana coast were found dead at 4 times historic rates in 2014, and there is increasing evidence that these ongoing deaths are connected to the oil spill. 6,104 dead birds in the first few months alone. Loons, birds that winter on the Louisiana coast, are carrying increasing concentrations of toxic oil compounds in their blood. 500 dead sea turtles have been found in the spill region every year since 2011. Unknown, though, is how many sea turtles died at sea and were never recovered by the scientists. Sperm whales that swam near the BP well have higher levels of DNA-damaging metals in their bodies than in the past. What would the effect be on our pristine fishing industries? Is it worth the risk? I say no. Today I've highlighted only a glancing view of the overall effects, not to mention all of the ongoing suffering today for victims, families, businesses, tourism, coastal and ocean communities, both human and animal. Our Sea Shepherd crew of Operation Toxic Gulf have been there conducting scientific research post this disaster. Although the immediate effects of the oil and the dispersant were obvious, massive amounts of oil soiling the Gulf beaches, thousands of birds covered in oil, countless fish and marine mammal deaths, the chronic effects are unknown and still somewhat unstudied to this day. So in closing, I say to you all, and your families, and your families' families, the likelihood of another disaster may be low, the consequence we already know is high. So are you willing to risk it all? Thank you.
Keep it in the ground, the big people spill it, yeah, oil! Yeah! Keep it in the ground, the big louder, louder!
I think there are a lot of people pretty concerned about what this means to our southern Australian coastlines. I mean, if something goes wrong here, it will be a disaster. It'll be a disaster. In the Gulf of Mexico, with the entire industrial hub of the oil industry, it took 87 days to shut that off. 6,500 boats or something were involved, 40,000 people. You know, where are the resources in Australia to mobilise, you know, a disaster management strategy on that type of scale? It just doesn't exist. You know, we're talking some of the roughest, deepest, most remote waters on the planet. And these oil companies, it appears, you know, are willing to go in there and run those risks, yet the people that are going to carry that risk are the people of southern Australia.
It's my absolute privilege to stand here as a South Australian Senator, as your South Australian Senator, and say I will stand up with you to say no to big oil and gas in the Bight and off Kangaroo Island. so good to see so many people willing to come along today and stand up and be counted. And I've been noticing there's big people and there's little people. For my role as a politician and a member of the Federal Parliament, there are few things that are more important than ensuring that we have an environment ongoing that will sustain us and allow us to thrive, and not only us, but other species like the beautiful, amazing marine species that we have in the Bight and off Kangaroo Island. So thank you for coming along today. The Australian Greens are standing with you.
Our view is that we should not be putting our amazing coastlines in this predicament. We need to be protecting these areas for the future. The last thing we need to be doing is opening up more oil fields in 2015, when we know full well that we can't even burn the amount of oil already on the books of these oil companies without, you know, basically destroying the climatic future for the next generation. So every aspect of this proposition is, you know, is really not on.
Oil, don't drill it. Keep it in the ground, the BP will spill it. Oil, don't drill it. Keep it in the ground, the BP will spill it.
Hi, what's your name?
My name's Kara Walsh.
What inspired you to come up with this event, Sands Across the USA?
Yeah, Hands Across the Sand is actually a movement that started in Florida in December, this past December of 2009, and the first gathering was this February, and I think it was all just in the state of Florida, and since then they have expanded. There are events happening today in every single state in the country, and Puerto Rico. I don't know about any other U.S. territories, and I think like 20 other countries, so it's really grown, and I just saw the movement website on Facebook somewhere, and I've just completed training with Greenpeace for 3 months on how to do community organizing, so this is my first ever event that I've ever coordinated, and I just thought there wasn't an event coordinator for Cleveland, and somebody should do it because this is a major U.S. city, and we need to show our support.
What is this oil gushing, this oil spill doing to your generation? Because you're going to inherit this mess.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the largest environmental crises we've faced in a long time, and it's just going to be, it's going to mean a lot of consequences. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen as a result of this. I mean, obviously a lot of wildlife devastation, water issues. I mean, it's just a clear indicator that we need to move into more, not more sustainable, but physically sustainable energy practices and, you know, the way we run our country.
What can individuals do, you know, to stop using that much gas and maybe go on a gas diet?
I mean, there are all kinds you can visit all kinds of websites online that'll give suggestions for that. But I mean, the simple stuff, just walking when you can, riding your bike more often. I don't have a car. I take the bus everywhere and ride my bike and walk when I can. So that's, I mean, a really simple thing you can do. And there are just tips about like how to improve your fuel efficiency, like close your windows when you're on the highway and avoid dramatic changes in speed. I mean, simple things like that.
Do you think we're going to have to slow down on this planet and come together and start cleaning up this earth?
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing all kinds of changes right now that, I mean, people haven't had to deal with before. So it's going to be really important that we buckle down and kind of remediate the messes and problems that we've started and start moving towards things that we know aren't going to have as dramatic an impact on the planet.
How was the response on Facebook for this event?
Last time I checked, which was this morning, there are 86 confirmed guests, 160 maybe, and that's just on Facebook. I also posted this event on 350, One Sky, I think maybe another website. I posted flyers around town. I had 3 or 4 other people who offered to post flyers around town for me, so hopefully it will get a lot of people.
Do you think you might do this event again in the near future?
I would love to. I mean, if the national movement plans to have another gathering, I would love to just be the Cleveland organizer again.
Okay, what is the website that people could check out about this organization?
Handsacrossthesand.com is the national website, and if you look on Facebook, I created like a fan page where I'll be posting photos from this event, so if you search Hands Across the Sand Cleveland, OH, that should come up there as one of the pages.
They said the oil gusher is the size of Lake Erie. Imagine Lake Erie all full of oil. And that was around 2 weeks ago. You don't know what you got until you lose it.
No.
Well, not to mention the air hazard for Burke Lake Front, which is a complete.
And everyone was like,
complete.
I'm going to hold hands. Everybody. What cable are you on?
No, it's supposed to be facing the water. So everyone join hands and we're gonna keep that way for another 15 minutes, please. Okay. Very loud. 15 minutes straight. That's it.
Who's the media too?
Yeah. I think probably 8 or 3, because I already talked to people from Channel 19. Yes.
Now who's he with the past?
Okay.
Local guy, our local Fox News. Okay. We get.
They are?
Yeah, usually.
So,
Oh no.
you know, I heard Glenn Beck's got the answers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard. You know, he's got a message from God from hell.
Not unless someone else does.
Imagine having a lake full of oil, Cleveland. You can come down here and bathe in the oil. Free cooking oil, free motor oil. The kids could be playing in the oil. Don't have to buy no more suntan oil.
I was going to say, I thought watercolor was appropriate.
The ocean's just beautiful. I guess for the last 80 years I've been walking at least twice a week on the beach.
What I'm doing is representing the peace movement with him. And I think that the peace movement and the green movement really need to combine forces in the world.
There are people who care well enough to come out here and into the weather and stand and say, look, we care.
On one level, calling that we do something about the awful spill that's happening in the Gulf right now.
We're forming a big circle over, with a slash through it over oil.
And we really do need to be the change that we want to see in the world right now.
Wow, this is cool.
standing there on the beach and looking right and looking left and seeing, you know, the line going farther than I could see. A little too much. I look around at all these smiling faces and all those smiling faces, and my God, you know, how lucky can you get?
I just can't imagine things happening the way they are without anyone having the ability to stand up and say, hey, this is enough. Where does it stop?
dangerous, dirty energy. We stand together for the land and sea. We don't need dangerous, dirty energy. We've drawn a line globally. Hands across the sand, we defend the air we breathe. Hands across the sand, clean food, clean water. Hands across the sand to embrace clean energy. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. Hands across the sand for the message we bring. We don't need dangerous, dirty energy. We stand together for the land and sea. We don't need dangerous, dirty energy. We've drawn a line globally. Hands across the sand, we defend the air we breathe. Hands across the sand, clean food, clean water. Hands across the sand to embrace clean energy. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. A line in the sand is a powerful thing. Hands across the sand for the message we bring.
Is that enough?